why do we stay in relationships with people that hurt us?
So going back and celebrating awareness, you'll always hear me break down change, ending a relationship that hurts us, down into 2 steps. Becoming aware of the habit that's not serving us, the relationship that's hurting us. Step 1. Step 2, making the new choices, which often, as we began the conversation, or include foundationally our body and all of those deep-rooted beliefs that live in our body, all of the reasons why not to leave, all of that fear as if it's happening in real time right now, and upset and rejection and abandonment and whatever it is, and shame that we felt in childhood that created the habit of staying with people who hurt us. Right? All of that is wired into us. And this was the biggest transformation in the practice as I began, which was realizing that all of the insight in the world, we could be like, oh, I'm aware that people hurt us or that this person is hurting me. We could have the very well-meaning support system that are shouting the red flags from the rafters and saying, hey, girl, you got to get out of this. This is hurting you. I'm hurting watching you hurt.
Yes.
And until we understand that that won't build that bridge, that we have to make new choices that are very difficult, that are living in acknowledgement of the hurt, that include new boundaries, that include walking in then to the unknown of how will this person react if I do create a boundary, if I do remove myself from the relationship, depending on the nature of the hurt. What will that mean about me? What will that mean about my future in relationships, right? And entertaining the reality of all of the feelings that we learned it meant.
So what do you do if you're the loved one watching your friend or your daughter or your sister or your mother or whoever it might be? You're the one watching them continue to stay in a relationship that is either toxic or hurting them. What can you do? Because you don't want to meddle, but then you also just don't want to do nothing. What do you do?
I explain the physiology and the reasoning behind these difficulties to hopefully allow the person who's perhaps watching their loved one be hurt or pained by a relationship or even violated and outright abused, whatever it is, to allow them to shift from whatever the way they are handling it or navigating it to being a much more compassionate one. Because I think loved ones can turn up the volume, can get frustrated, especially if it's someone that they continue to witness struggling to remove themselves from something that to them is objectively, overtly problematic in whatever way. Right? So being in a more compassionate place, right? Not just saying that you understand, giving the feeling of safety and understanding can be a dramatic shift for the person who's already struggling. A lot of us, I think, can feel judged by even very well-meaning loved ones who are trying to offer support because they don't know what to do. Because the next reality that's very difficult to tolerate for those of us who are watching our loved ones be violated or hurt in any way is that they actually can't make them change. They can't zoom into their bodies and show up in a different way that might be even easier for them to show up or put a boundary to put in place. That it really is up to that individual themselves to create that shift or that change
So
in
there's
a dynamic.
nothing you can do really to create change for them. And you're saying provide a safe, compassionate space. Does that feel like or get confused with compliance?
What you can do, I think, in action is to ask the individual who's in that relationship how it is that they might be best supported. So I think that shift, you're not just watching on the sidelines. I mean, shifting into a much more compassionate, safe, secure space for them to share with you is, in my opinion, not compliance. It's everything we've been talking about. It's what we're looking for and need in relationships. And I say this because if there is judgment that the person is feeling over time, this is where secrets start to happen. They'll be less and less likely to tell you what's really happening.
Right.
Because they want to now manage the perception, not hear from you something that they already intuitively know is problematic. They don't want you to affirm it in judgment. So they'll just tell you less of it. It's even back to parenting. I think a lot of parents very much want their child to turn to them in support, but they have an immediate reaction to something upsetting that their child might share with them, making it maybe a little less likely that the child shares something upsetting with them again.
Yeah.
And then directly asking, I think sometimes we minimize how helpful that can be, because we might think we know what's helpful. I'm going to pluck the person from the relationship.
Right.
I'm going to, tell them to physically leave or come move in with me. That might feel like the most unhelpful suggestion in that moment. So directly asking the loved one who's in the difficult situation, what do they need to feel supported? What's one small thing we can do for them to help them in that moment?
This is so great because so many people feel like they're doing something wrong because the person is still in the situation.
Yeah, right.
And like they're at fault, or they're not a great enough parent, or they're not a
enough,
great
right.
enough friend. And they feel like they're failing because this person is still in that situation. And you're saying you cannot make another person change because everything in their body that they feel, the fear, the history, their patterns, their trauma that they're holding on to, and why they're staying in that relationship. That there's really nothing you could do, and that the best thing you could do is create space so that they don't disconnect or hide things from you more.
I think this comes up a lot too, Jamie, in addiction.
Yes.
We feel like, especially if it's our loved one, our partner, our child, if you loved me and valued our relationship enough, you would just stop whatever addictive behavior that it is. And I think that there are addictive behaviors outside of even using substances. We assign this personal meaning that we're not enough for them to want to stop.
Yes.
And I think this is another one of those areas that, in my opinion, at least addictive behaviors of all kind are a coping mechanism and are or need to become the responsibility or the daily choice that that person makes, of course, with the support of safe, connected others to help them. Though until they are showing up in service of making new choices, unfortunately, and developing new ways to cope with whatever the underlying dysregulation is, those addictive behaviors might need to continue.
I was not even going to go here, but I think this is for somebody listening right now, because when your partner or someone you care deeply about is having addictive behaviors, whether it is substance abuse, gambling, pornography addiction, it is so easy to think there's something wrong with you, or you're inadequate, or not meeting their needs, or whatever it might be. And you're saying that they are doing that behavior as a coping mechanism. Does that behavior have anything to do with who their partner is?
I believe that those coping mechanisms develop in childhood, usually around deep-rooted beliefs of not enough, not worthy,
Yes.
inabilities to deal with very difficult and upsetting emotions, learning, right, these addictive habits, or what begin as behaviors that then turn into relied upon addictive habits to help them navigate these deep feelings and the emotions that come along with them. The shame, I think shame is at the foundation of a lot of these addictive behaviors. And then by focusing time, attention, getting the physiological components of these behaviors, many of them, the byproducts, is the distance that they need. And oftentimes it's because they don't feel that safety and the security in the earliest relationships to be who they are, to turn to others for the support that they need. And then they continue to rely on it. And this is why, again, I believe all healing, including of addictive behaviors, needs to be holistic. There needs to be other ways that these individuals learn, relational ways to cope and to gain the support that they need, right? It's not enough just to, avoid the people, places, and things, as I think I worked in a lot of people who were in, and I think a lot of people gain benefit of those AA model types of recovery. I'm not trying to, minimize the benefit, but I think it needs to be much more of an embodied approach for the many that continues to relapse. Because until new coping tools and new relationships are built, it's only a matter of time before that emotional upset will come to the point of that returned reliance on the addictive way of coping.
And sometimes it pops up out of the blue. I have a friend who is 20 years into her marriage, and her husband is newly addicted to internet porn. And it has turned into such a thing in her life. And her first default is, there's something wrong with me. Is he not attracted to me? And I think what you shared is so powerful because people are going through this in all different forms. And it's so easy to think that you can solve it or there's something wrong with you. And to hear what you're saying, that it actually has nothing to do with you at all. And then it can come from their own sources of shame and unworthiness or coping mechanisms from when they're a child, and it's coming out in these different ways. I think that is really powerful. And I think freeing. I think to hear that, because people can hear this from their friends or family, but to hear it from the most famous holistic psychologist in the world is so powerful and so freeing. And I'm just having a moment thinking of the number of people listening right now that are having sort of an aha moment in their own life. It doesn't mean it's not going to keep being hard. It doesn't mean they don't have hard decisions to make on if they're going to stay with that person or not. It doesn't mean that person even may want to change their behaviors, right? But just hearing that it's actually literally not about you, because we can take those things and have them take root in our identity. They can stir up sources of our own unworthiness and our own issues when we think, oh, I'm now not enough for my partner or whatever. So I think that hearing you say that, which I wasn't even planning on talking about, but I feel like that's such a big deal.
Jamie Kern Lima is her name.
Everybody needs Jamie Kern Lima in their life.
Jamie Kern Lima.
Jamie, you're so inspiring.
Jamie Kern Lima.